Let's go.
Cole, let's fucking go, baby. What's going on?
It's going
I saw the chat, Cheryl asking for a cowboy hat. I was like, I don't know what this means, but I'm excited to see what it is, and did not disappoint.
This is what it is. So like Oil's brands is it's America. It's American dynamism. It's American Bitcoin. It's building on Bitcoin in America. And we're trying to figure out, how do you signal that? Is it blue? Is it our logo? What is it? It's fucking.
Oh, you're bringing out the eagle in me.
Yeah, I now know why Peace is obsessed with you guys so much. It all makes sense. You're just a perfect representation of his personality.
Yeah, Peace, we got to meet up in real life. Are you in New York, man?
I'm not. But next time I come to New York, we'll hang. Yeah. It's the Eastern time zone thing. It's like it's hard. It's down in our blood.
It is.
All right, nice. So you're the founder and CPO of Oil Corp, which is a company building a suite of open source infrastructure designed to unlock the next stage of programmability on Bitcoin. So you built Oil Bitcoin Wallet, a smart contract layer called Alkanes, and I think you're working on Bitcoin's first AMM. So yeah, in our piece that Cheryl wrote about you guys last month, which is great and recommend people reading, she called Oil Corp a pseudo corporate art collective that looks like a wallet, acts like a layer one, and thinks like a postmodern cult. Like, is that accurate? Like, is that how you guys think about yourselves, or like how do you describe it from the horse's mouth?
I think it's quite accurate. It's really fun. I mean, like Oil Corp, we do have a company. It is called Oil Corporation, but Oil Corp, the idea of Oil Corp as a brand or like this aura is something much larger than that of like a company that's making things. Like to us, Oil Corp is like corporate identities exist to align people around common goals. And like Bitcoin doesn't have a foundation. There's no like entity that's pushing or guiding or encouraging any level of programmability or coordination at large. And so Oil Corp to us, beyond its role as a company, a parent company of the team and the projects we create, is the idea of working together, building on Bitcoin layer one and contributing towards these shared goals of programmability, open experimentation, deep liquidity. And so, one of our community members, Jinma, he created a smart contract called Clock-In. And what Clock-In does is there's no output, there's no token. You literally just check in on Bitcoin L1. It's powered by a smart contract and it tracks your streak. And that's sort of like a symbol of what we're trying to do is the mempool is our God. And the only impact we want to make is in the Bitcoin L1 mempool, which frankly is clearing out regularly. You see all these L2 projects talking about scaling while the L1 mempool is clearing out, regularly. And there are no real productive assets or use cases on L1. So Oil Corp is a company that builds and researches in that arena, but Oil Corp, the idea is everybody who can see and resonate with this and realize that this is how we work together.
Nice. So you're saying we're an Oil Corp too.
You are an Oil Corp employee. Yes, absolutely. Especially
that's what I like to hear.
If you've clocked in, you're a good employee.
I mean, he sure as hell looks like one with that cigar.
Great.
Absolutely. Is that thing lit? I can't even tell.
Oh yeah. Always it stays lit. We're smoking. We're smokers. I'm super curious. I mean, I think from the jump, as soon as Oil Wallet came out, it really captured my attention because ordinals were moving in general. Like it was still a relatively, maybe it was 1 year or so into ordinals kind of taking off. And it made immediate sense to me, just as wallets as discoverability, which I think was like the first positioning that you guys were kind of going towards, where there's like all these things happen. You want to be the portal into that world. And I'm wondering today where you're thinking that portal to the world is. Like, is that still on the Oil Wallet, or how are you thinking about discoverability or like positioning that?
That's a great question. I think to like go deeper into that, I can sort of go into how we evolved from the wallet positioning to sort of where it is now, which is like larger Oil Corp. So Alec and I were raising money back like initially for our pre-seed rounds in like before BRC20, before first fungible token on Bitcoin, before runes. There's really just ordinals. And so we were the crackpots out there saying, there's going to be tokens on Bitcoin. There's going to be this whole economy. There's going to be all this stuff. We wanted to build on the indexer layer. We wanted to build all of these infrastructure, but it was too big of a swing for VCs. You're like, oh, it's a Bitcoin operating system. It's an indexer and it's a wallet and it's all this shit together. And they're like, yeah, we've seen it before. Everyone wants to do that. Smart contracts on Bitcoin. Yeah, right. So we were like, okay, we got to pare this down. How do we articulate the vision of, we want an entry point to interacting on Bitcoin that is going to support these things that we know are going to happen. And so we galvanized that to like, this is the wallet. The wallet is an entry point to this thing. And then I have, like, as running product, crazy UX needs on what I expect minimally viable in a wallet from working in Ethereum and all of the other ecosystems that were not present in Bitcoin wallets. So things like an activity feed, things like really basic stuff, transaction monitoring, rendering assets in the wallet and like abstracting away some of these necessary things. And so the vision at that point was, it's the wallet, but we really knew that in order to do these UX improvements, we needed to work at the infrastructure level. So that meant that we sort of had these two things. Sandshrew, which is our unified JSON RPC. Think of it as like Infura for Bitcoin. That started out, in my mind, it was just, oh, that's the back end for the wallet. Like, I didn't understand indexing. I didn't know what it was. I was like, that's just the back end. We can name it after a Pokemon. I don't fucking care. But, oh, it's this thing. I guess it does the back end stuff. I'm going to focus on the product. But what I learned more is like, it was so early in the Bitcoin ecosystem that even asking for something like a transaction feed that like shows you your cost basis and the token and the amount was like a ridiculous ask. And so what we had to do is expand our infrastructure layer to like, okay, now we need to do intent monitoring. We need to do all these things. And then how do you show off those features? So the wallet was basically our place to say, look, we're building infrastructure. You can experience it through the wallet, but the end state is never going to be the wallet. The wallet isn't the business model. The wallet is just a conduit. And another thing in the Bitcoin ecosystem that's important to be attentive to is, again, it's much earlier. So there isn't something like, a great wallet connector. You get all the functions and you get all of the contracts. Like, you need these tools that allow you to interact with these things. So any meta protocol like ordinals or runes or alkanes, the wallets and the marketplaces have to support them. There's this huge cold start problem. Even if you are able to come up with the meta protocol and the indexer and the hosted version, you still need to then go convince all the wallets to support you, to render your assets. You have to convince the marketplaces to do all this shit. And so having the wallet was our way to get ahead of that. We've solved the cold start problem because at least, hey, maybe it hasn't caught on yet. The momentum isn't there. It's up, well, you can use it in Oil Wallet, and you're not dependent on an incumbent partner to take a risk on a super early, or potentially competitive meta protocol in their tech. We're like, well, we have it in our wallet. So that's sort of where it's going now. Is we have the wallet. It's an ingredient, but any Bitcoin wallet can sign on our application. Experts, you can use it. Whether you can see it in the wallet, I don't even think that matters anymore. Everybody trades on Hyperliquid. They don't see their positions in their wallet. No one's ever said, why don't you make a Hyperliquid wallet? It doesn't matter. The wallet is just a signing dongle. The real experience happens in the dApp, on the website, in these more aggregated interfaces. The wallet's just keys in a dongle. I don't
Damn.
Like you don't look at your Uniswap LP positions in your wallet. You connect to Uniswap, you see them there. It's the same thing with Hyperliquid. There's just a portfolio tab. So that's something we're fixing with the dApp as well. Is we have a portfolio page, so you don't have to see it in your wallet. It doesn't matter. Like
just let me in the damn house, right? Just let me in the house.
That's too funny. You hear that, MetaMask? You're just a signing dongle. That's all you are.
I know that though.
I just got it.
It's a great place to be positioned.
So okay, I mean, to me, it feels really helpful actually to hear you, refer to or to give the comp of MetaShrew to Infura. That for some reason makes sense in my mind for the functionality that you're just unlocking for Blockcoin in the same way that they unlocked functionality for developers on Ethereum.
Yeah, I might clarify a little bit more. So Sandshrew is the name for our unified JSON RPC service. So that serves Bitcoin Core, Explorer, Runes Indexer, Alkanes Indexer, BRC20 Indexer. But MetaShrew is a special thing that lives within the indexer. So MetaShrew is a WASM-based indexer, which means it has a VM inside it. So how are we able to do smart contracts on Bitcoin? Here's how. So we saw ordinals. Ordinals basically opened up this crack, which is, okay, we have this data that's on chain, but we need an indexer to interpret it. Awesome. So now we have one sat, which was always equaled one sat, can now equal an infinite amount of sats. Amazing, right? Then BRC20 came along. BRC20 is basically Domo with a spray painting on the ORD indexer. And he's saying, we don't even need to have ARD on it anymore. You can just have some code and a virtual balance. And now you have that as a fungible in the ORD code base. And then that became very popular with Chinese communities, OKX, Unisat, they all sort of leaned in there. And then Casey was like, had to respond to this. He's like, oh, my precious ORD, there's now 90 million transfer inscriptions that are tokens that are not for what this is intended for. I'm going to make a better non-fungible standard. So, okay, ordinals unlocked 1 sat is now equal to an infinite amount of sats. BRC20 is 1 sat is now equal to an infinite amount of sats, but there's JSON on there. So it's a virtual balance on top of 1 sat. What Runes introduced was, here's a fungible token that is based on the UTXO. So a UTXO, which is fundamentally valueless, now can be worth an infinite amount of sats, right? So it's all sort of building up to this. Up till ordinals, BRC20, and runes only have 2 on-chain functions. You can mint them and you can transfer them. And you have very limited capabilities that you can do with mint and transfer. You can have a marketplace, PSBT-based signing, a couple little things like that, but you can't have robust smart contract execution or any of these more interconnected things that we need to create modular DeFi. So what Alkanes does is we basically looked at the runes indexer and how they leverage the UTXO. They effectively use the witness envelope to put data in there. And what we put in there is a gzipped WASM file that contains the smart contract logic for the actual transaction. So you read it 100% from Bitcoin layer 1. There's no separate validator network, no separate L2. The entire state of it can be synced from just one node. But in order to interpret that, we use an off-chain indexer. But our off-chain indexer can do compute because it's built in WASM. So I think that's the best way I could tell the story. So now what is an Alkane? If a rune is an infinite amount of a UTXO, which is fundamentally valueless, can equal an infinite amount of sats now. What an Alkane is it has all of the functions. So you have a UTXO that can be worth an infinite amount of sats, and that can be interconnected with a sea of other UTXOs that all have information and dependencies, and you have more asymmetrical information growth on the metashrew indexer layer than you ever will on Bitcoin L1 itself. And that's a feature that Bitcoin has, but now we can address that with off-chain. With indexers.
Okay, I love it. And I think that you maybe answered this next question that I want to ask, but I want to maybe, just see if there's a clear articulation that is helpful for founders and builders out there. There's an Alec tweet where he says, if you're here, you survived the L2 PSYOP.
Yes.
Which I really love because whatever. I actually am so down with infinite block space, but I am a big fan of L1s because I think that they are the truth. But for builders, I am wondering, like, why do you guys believe the indexer is better than an L2?
So yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best way to sort of draw a parallel to this is like talk about other ecosystems. Let's look at what happened in Ethereum. The reason Ethereum exists is because we wanted a way to program on-chain value, and it was Bitcoin, and we couldn't do what we have now because we didn't have a fueling layer, we didn't have WASM as developed, but that was their solution. They were like, we got to create a new VM that allows us to do these things. They created ERC20. Everyone agreed on this standard. We had synthetics, we had stable coins, we had DEXs, and we all played together. Now, all of the value on Ethereum was developed on layer 1, like the first lending protocols, the first DEX, all of these things, even the top most valuable NFTs, they were all on layer 1 because that's where it needs to start. The majority of the value always starts on layer 1, and it needs to create a necessary forcing function, which is block space demand, in order to get to the layer 2 point. So what happened in Bitcoin ecosystem is basically all the VCs jumped the gun. They were like, oh, let's create this huge catcher's mitt, this layer 2 that, there's going to be so much demand on layer 1. For what? There are no tokens that have fundamentals on Bitcoin layer 1. There's nothing that you can do with those. So a layer 2 is great, but only as a catcher's mitt for an ecosystem that hasn't been earned yet. What Bitcoin did is we went straight to meme coins as if we have earned it. That's a cherry on top of an ecosystem that has their shit together. They agree on standards. They have composable DEX. They have all these things. And Bitcoin went straight to meme coins as if it's like LinkedIn adding stories. Like, it doesn't make any sense. What's Gen Z doing? We're like, they like meme coin. Let's add a meme coin to Bitcoin. It's like, if you had a DEX, if you had composable standards, if you had lending, if you had all these things, then you have meme coins. But right now, Bitcoin ecosystem meme coins is begging centralized exchanges to list their shit on spot or futures so that they can get a sell button and dump on you. Like because they haven't constructed the ingredients like a DEX and shared liquidity and all of these things, you have meme coins on Bitcoin before you have the ingredients to actually do these things. So why build on layer one? There's that, which is this scaling idea is mostly a distraction. I mean, like, look at all the ZK technology across all the chains. It's mostly a distraction. That's okay. I think it's going to come into place later. But another reason for why L1 is Bitcoin has a huge problem. The security of Bitcoin is maintained by people mining Bitcoin, and mining Bitcoin needs to be profitable in order for them to continue doing it. And so right now we have a situation where we're sort of seeing the L1 ossify. The new big meme is Bitcoin Treasury Company. What is that? That's a company that raises money, buys Bitcoin, and then doesn't use it, doesn't transact with it, doesn't touch it. So what's going to happen is now you have these larger swaths of Bitcoin. It's not moving. It's not contributing to fees. It's not contributing to the shared security of Bitcoin. And there will be a point where it is not worth it to mine Bitcoin because the price isn't high enough. It's not monetarily feasible. And so the real thing is building on layer one is the only way to actually ensure that this competition happens in the mempool on layer one, increases the fees and in the environment there, so that we can get to this layer 2 point. But like, if we're not increasing the security of our base asset and understanding that in every single other ecosystem on the planet, it starts on L1, and if L1 crushes it, then and only then does it make it to an L2. People are only going to make compromises around their trust of their assets if there's really high financial incentive, and that means that it's already been solved on L1.
I'm curious why you want to go do this on Bitcoin instead of just like continuing to progress, DeFi and Ethereum, or, build on Hyperliquid where you can like deposit spot Bitcoin and then go do shit with it. Like, why? I'm sure there's some kind of deep held belief that's backing your conviction here. So.
I mean, at the end of the day, Bitcoin is the most fucking radical thing on the internet, like, period. That's what it is. And we've been looking at it. Like, I remember I went to my parents' apartment when I started working in Ethereum, and they were like, why Ethereum? And I was like, because you can't do anything with Bitcoin, but you can do stuff with Ethereum. And then, you're in the early 2019, 2021, 2022 times, all of the Ethereum projects were like, I mean, I worked at the world's largest DAO. I worked with Mantle, all these projects. And like, once you see on the inside how DAOs work and how all this shit works, it's basically regulatory arbitrage. The only reason people have these governance tokens like Uni, all this shit, is because it was such an early environment that's the only way they could like get value back to their investors and themselves. It's like, okay, let's make these DAOs, these governance tokens. And so the last thing I would ever want to see is that recreated on Bitcoin. And so when Ordinal's moment happened, that's what I saw. That's what Alec and I saw was, okay, we saw how this played out on all these other chains with Matic, with the layer 2s, with all this junk. Now we have $2 trillion worth of liquidity, which is probably going to become $20 trillion worth of liquidity soon, and you still can't use it. Like, even if this isn't a mainstream consumer thing, we need to crack open this test bed for experimentation, because it's actually everybody's left layer 1. The most dominant wallets in the space, they support Bitcoin layer 2s. They don't even support Bitcoin L1 assets. Like, everyone's given up on layer 1, and that creates the perfect place for us to play.
Got it. So what's your vision? Smart contract layer gets launched, a bunch of, a developer ecosystem really emerges. Like, are people just like rebuilding prediction markets and DeFi and all this shit on Bitcoin? Or do you see Bitcoin applications just going in a kind of unique and weirder direction?
So I think some people will. There are other meta protocols, and their basic goal is, and a lot of the L2s as well, they're like, oh, EVM on Bitcoin, finally. Okay, sweet. So you have a network effect for EVM, which means that what you're going to do is have this adverse selection bias where you're getting the lowest quality devs who can just fork something that they saw on another chain and then put it on a slower chain that they have worse experience with. Like, if you're an EVM dev, I agree. Go build on Monad, go build on Hyperliquid, go build on these fast, sexy, subsidized things that are getting pumped by VC. Like, absolutely, you should. But the types of developers we're trying to attract for Alkanes, they think a little bit differently. They want to make impact in the mempool. They're not trying to like get a project and exit pump or do other things. Like, by using WASM VM instead of EVM, we're trying to find those people that really see that you can do unique things on Bitcoin. And there are many things that Alkanes unlocks that you cannot do on Ethereum, based that unique to its design. Like I'm not extremely technical, so I can't go too deep into them, but like there are benefits from WASM that you will never have with EVM. And there's far more WASM code than will ever be written in EVM because it's existed for longer. There's more examples. And AI is extremely WASM savvy. And so the real like end thesis at the end of the day is like AI, compute, Bitcoin. These are the three biggest technologies in our lifetimes. How is AI going to interact with Bitcoin? Alkanes. And so it may not happen immediately. It may not be an instant thing where it just finds it. But while a consumer may not understand the difference between building on layer 1 or a validator network or L2 or something like this, an AI will know the difference and it won't be fooled. And the native currency of the internet, which is Bitcoin, connected with that force, if Alkanes is just the stickiest set of APIs and they can just deploy whatever they want and trade and do it all from the command line, I think that's where it's going to come.
You're getting me too hyped, man. It's too exciting. Bitcoin is too beautiful. I love it. Yeah. Mike in the chat says, I just swapped my entire portfolio to Bitcoin after this sermon, which feels so good because I actually think that there's a really a core truth that you're getting at, which is just about incentive alignment. And it is really promised all over the world. But I like the direct shout out that you're making where it's like, fill up the mempool, secure Bitcoin, and you're pumping your own bags.
Yeah, you're pumping your own bags. It's not like we're dangling ecosystem grants in front of people and saying, oh, please, we'll give you 50K if you build on our test net and run our numbers up. No, Bitcoin exists, and it is the biggest opportunity on the planet for you to connect with getting value from that. All of these kids coming out of college, they've got Cursor and Claude 5 or whatever, Claude 4, and there's like no jobs. There's no software engineering jobs. And so what are they going to be thinking? Here's a framework that allows me that did all of the bare level, like close to the metal stuff, all the indexer, the smart contracts, the way that you interact with them, the SDK for the wallet. And all you have to do is task Windsurf with making a UI or market on top of that, and you can just go nuts. And so like the virtue of Alkanes is it's completely permissionless. Ordinals and runes, they were run by a lead maintainer. Like they chose what gets in, what doesn't. And every single other meta protocol thus far has had a similar sort of approach. And this is completely open source. Anyone can run it. Anyone can play with it. And so we have a lot of Chinese audience that's very interested in it. The Chinese audience, they are very skeptical. They're extremely smart. And they do not want to play with technology that they've seen rugs, they've seen scams, they've seen all the things. If someone can take it away from them, they don't want to build on it. They don't want to invest in it. And so when we think about like, what is the higher power of Alkanes, or why is this permissionless and open source? It's because there are no constraints to what you can do with it. Anyone can run it, fork it, play with it, create competition, build on top of our contracts. There will be many people who build front ends on top of Swap. Awesome, we love it. The difference between how it's going to happen in Bitcoin versus Ethereum is in Ethereum, you have an ERC20, and the incentive is for you to fragmented liquidity. Oh, I'm going to make my own swap. I'm going to put my own token incentive. It's my DAO token. Look, you're part of this DAO instead. What we want to happen on Bitcoin is Oil AMM is the global unified liquidity layer. And so from day one, we have routers built in so we can all share the pools. Instead of infighting and fragmenting liquidity, like we saw happen in Ethereum, like we saw happen in early ecosystems, we can all work on this together and contribute to it. And so when there are staking products, they can tap into the AMM pools. When there are CDP products, they can use these things and compose with swap and flash loans. And it's just about creating as much optionality for builders to go nuts so that the highest signal talent will come and build on a place where it can't be taken away from them.
Oh, it's so exciting. Okay, so I gotta ask for people maybe who aren't familiar with Oil, where can we go clock in and become employees?
Great question. So yeah, app.oil.io is our primary website where you're going to see a lot more functionality rolling out soon. So you can clock in there. You can bring any Bitcoin wallet. I think it costs like $1 or $2. And all that does is you're saying I'm here. So what clock in really is it's shared participatory performance art. It's 6,000 people or bots, who cares? Every single day, saying, I'm here, alkanes is here. And you can see it in the mempool. It spikes immediately, our block has higher, and it's just proof that we are doing this. It's not proof that this is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar protocol in 3 months, but it's proof that we are here. And the only way that you could make that impact is with a smart contract on Bitcoin with that level of regularity. So it's like, we're trying to construct these pyramids that other people can see from space, and hopefully they'll land on our planet and be like, yo, this is a pretty cool place to hang out. The happiest place on Bitcoin, we like to call it.
How many check-ins do we need to take up an entire Bitcoin block?
I think it's like, it depends how many transactions are included in that block, which depends on the difficulty, which depends on all these things. But I think it's roughly 6,500 to 7,000. Most of them have been full. I haven't been checking it every single day. At Jinma, he's got a bunch of data, JINNMA, on Twitter. But yeah, it's just one example of a smart contract that he's also relatively non-technical. Like, people are making these WASMs with AI because we give them a couple examples, and it's like, okay, you have time, you have these parameters. Like, it's very easy to understand. You don't have to go super deep into solidity or reentries or like, oh, how am I going to make this just different enough to like market it? You can just go.
Wicked, man. Really appreciate this. I think I'm pilled. I need to go check in. We'll let you go here, running long. We'd love to have you back on when you have something new to announce in a couple months. But this was sick. I hope it opens people's minds to what's happening on Bitcoin.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, you guys. The AMM will be out shortly. Follow at Airhead at Oil Wallet. We're going to be rebranding soon to Oil Corp for the full identity. But the AMM is deployed and it is live on mainnet, and I've swapped on it. It does work. We're going to continue to roll it out slow and responsibly, but looking forward to sharing more with you all.
Thanks so much, man. Can't wait for next time.
Peace.